Greetings, brothers. Good evening. How is everybody? How am I feeling? I'm feeling good, Mike. How are you feeling? Ad Dermot, Christian, Daniel, Reziel. Good evening. Thanks for coming to hang out. Dark Ginger, Alexander was here first, apparently. Nice to see you guys. We've got just check. One, two, three, four, five, six lists to review this week, and then next week at the moment we get five lists. So we're doing about six a week. Um, and we're just going over everything, I guess. And what was the other thing to say? This week, over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to try and get a couple of more really heavily high tier Blood Angels players onto the channel. We're going to do some list reviews, talk over some questions about their lists that are doing well in tournaments. So we've got that probably. Definitely one coming up this Friday, and maybe the Friday after that. But we'll try and do a little bit of coverage in September, and then I guess there might be a video on a new. There might be a new video on a new data slate because I checked back, and apparently the last data slate was the 23rd of June. So July, August, September. If they are going to be every 3 months, then we should have one maybe by the end of the month. So if we do get one for the end of the month. Absolutely, we can look at that as well. Danny says that we can maybe get Junior on the channel as well. So yeah, I've never spoke to Junior actually, Danny. But we could reach out if he's got some tournament winning lists or something like that we could look at. And at some point during tonight's stream, if you are enjoying it, I do always appreciate it if you hit that like button. It really helps me out, and it doesn't cost anything to leave a like, right? So if you could leave a like on any of the videos that you ever watch from me, it would be super appreciated. It takes you 2 seconds, cost you nothing, right? Cool. All right, Blood Angels armies. Hello, Highland Phoenix. How are you doing? All right, we're gonna start with I think it's pronounced Alejandro, hopefully. And he's been a member of the channel for 3 months. And he says, "Hi, Commander. There's something I'm really looking forward to run. Using Centurions as a tough Overwatch suppression theater moving up the board while the Kratos shoots from the back at anything it sees, and the rest of the boys do their jumpy killing thing." Okay. I don't think we've seen anyone take Centurions and a Kratos yet, so let's dive into this first list. Custodes get Obset back and Death Company will go down 1 point, is my guess for the data slate. I think some of Custodes might get Obset back. And I think some of Necrons might get changed. Necrons seem like in a really, really strong place at the moment. Okay. So it's a 2CP 2000 point list. We're starting with Astroth, Mantra of Strength and Canticle of Hate. So 4 damage weapon, +2 to the charges. We got Dante in here, who is the Warlord, and we've taken Heroic Bearing. I don't love Heroic Bearing, but I guess it's fine. It's fine, I guess. If you've got enough core units that you think you can get value out of it, great. Then we got the Sanguinary Priest, who is the Rites of War, so the flipping character Sanguinary Priest, and he's got the Teeth of Terra, so he's an 8 attack chainsword guy with his chainsword doing 2 damage. I think that if you are going to run Sanguinary Priest, I think I prefer giving him a weapon than giving him like Armor Indomitus. I think like if he gets caught in a bad position, he's probably going to die anyway, so I'd rather have him with the Teeth of Terra and make him go down swinging. We then have Assault Intercessors, Incursors, and an Infiltrator squad, so one squad of kind of all 3 of the decent troop choices, which is fine. We've got Death Company with 4 Thunderhammers. We've got double Redemptors here, Frag Storms, Heavy Flamers, and the Heavy Onslaught Cannons. Interesting. I don't like this loadout on the Redemptor at all, actually. One, I don't like the Frag Storms because you can't shoot them if you're ever in melee combat. They give you statistically very few more shots than a Stormbolter, if ever. The Heavy Flamer, I guess, is okay because it makes Redemptors more difficult to charge, but the Heavy Onslaught Cannon, with the changes of Armor of Contempt, like, I think it's a pretty low value weapon now. It's AP1, so out with turn 1, enemy Marines, for example, or anything with Armor of Contempt is saving on 3s, and it's got no versatility, really. Like, whereas the Plasma, you know, you've got a bit of versatility there, you can shoot on high power, costs the same amount of points as the Onslaught Cannon. You can shoot on high power, you can pick off, you can do 3 damage a shot at -4. I guess if you're running into hordes, the Onslaught Cannon might be slightly better. They said that the data slates were going to be every 3 months, Danny. That was they were going to do a data slate every 3 months, and they were going to do like a new chapter approved book every 6 months. I think 6 months for chapter approved is too fast, though. We did have a little discussion on the channel and thought that like a year would be too long, so I think 9 months might be better for the chapter approved. But I have no say over that or anything like that. I just think that 6 months for me seems like it's too short. But then I have family with 2 kids. I don't get to play as much as maybe I should or I would like to. So maybe that's why I feel like 6 months is too short. But like I feel like a lot of people that play, like even that play tournaments, don't play more than one game a week. Like if you have any sort of family commitment, more than one game a week is unrealistic, I feel like. Especially like if I'm going to tell my wife I'm going to go away for a whole weekend to play a tournament, I'm not going to be able to go out like 2 or 3 nights a week and play games and play tournaments. So 6 months to me just felt like it's too short for chapter approved. But I'm sure I did a poll on the channel, and people did sort of think that 6 months was too short, but people were worried a year would be too long. I mean, it's the first couple of seasons, so maybe we'll see a change. We got the Sangre Ancient with Soul Warden and the Wrath of Baal. We got Sangre Guard, and this is 7 Sangre Guard, mix of swords and axes, another 7 with a mix of swords and axes. I thought you said he wanted to run Centurions on a Kratos, but you submitted a list without Centurions or a Kratos in it? Okay, very strange. 2 squads of 7 Sangre Guard, 2 squads of Eliminators, both have the sniper rifles, and I much prefer the Las Fusils. If I was going to pick Eliminators, I would pick Las Fusils. He also has a squad of Voidsmen at Arms. Okay, so he said here's something. I guess he pasted me the wrong list. So we're gonna have to Alejandro, if you're watching, you're gonna have to paste me another list. If you do paste me, we'll get you on the show fairly quickly. Critique on this list then is sniper rifles are average. I think Las Fusils are better. The Redemptor's loadouts I think are average. I think regular Onslaught Cannon and Heavy Plasma is better. Heavy Flamers aren't effective as they once were, right? Because they're just -1. I don't love Heavy Flamers on Dreadnoughts anymore. Like, I shot a Heavy Flamer into, like, 5 Zephyrim, and, like, back in the day, that would probably kill, like, 2 or 3 Zephyrim. I think it was double Heavy Flamer, actually, so I expected to kill, like, 4 or 5 Zephyrim. I killed none of them. So Heavy Flamers, I'm not in love with them anymore. So, yeah, I don't like your loadout in the Redemptor. I think the 5-man Death Company with Hammers is good. I think the troop choices are fine. I think the HQ choices are generally fine as well. The Voidsman, we're doing something like Nakman Data is fine as well. So yeah, good evening, Nucking. How you're doing? 6 months isn't too short for the tournament guys who play 2 or 3 tournaments a month. Yeah, I mean, like older wargamers, which are a lot of people in my play circle. It's all older people with family. So yeah, we think 6 months is too short. Good evening, Dirty Wizard. How you doing? Only 5 Voidsmen. It surely should find the extra 8 points to get the 6th Voidsman. That's very true, DTM, because that gives you that guaranteed Nakmund. You could probably get round that by, like, I was going to say, what could you drop? This list is like, there's not many points spent on upgrades in this list. You'd probably have to swap out, like, your infiltrators, which I don't think you'd want to do. Where could you find 8 points? I think you'd have to drop 1 Sangre Guard out of one of the squads, fix the Dreadnought weapons, and then find that extra Voidsman. Because I think you're going to be 5 points for the onslaughts on the Dreadnoughts. You could then put on the rocket pods, so that'd be another 10. So you'd be like 20 points, then you could find those 8 points, you'd get 28 points. That's something that I would do. Dirty Wizard just woke up, he's fell asleep after his roast dinner. Man, I wish someone cooked me a roast dinner on a Sunday. I haven't had a roast dinner in ages. I think it's a shame that everything is valued as MAQ armies. Everything AP1 is considered useless. It's not considered useless, I guess, but there's enough stuff that's running around with Armor of Contempt that make it like a conscious choice. You know, like if you're picking a weapon that has AP1, you're just gonna have to accept that, like, into some armies it's going to be useless. Um, and then I guess if you know that your weaponry is going to be useless into some armies, then by de facto you just, like, when I build lists, I build one list and then play it against a bunch of different enemies, right? So I don't want to build a list where it's like, well, if I fight a Armor of Contempt army, I'm really going to struggle, right? Like that. That makes me like feel bad and then just not pick it. I think you want the Instigator Bolt Carbines, and then I think you want the double Last Fusils on at least one Eliminator squad to give you that move, shoot, move, and also to give you a little bit of more ranged firepower. You don't have any real range firepower in this list. You've got the Dreadnoughts for a bit of forward clear, but again, I just think the Plasma is a much more better choice. Dark Assassin, if I want to submit a list for next week, should I just pop it into any comments? Yes, you should. That will it's easiest for me if you put it on the community tab. So if you go into YouTube, Blood Angels Commander, click channel, and then click community tab, it's easiest if you put it over there for me. That'd be appreciated. I don't think £60 a year buying the tournament pack is breaking the bank. No, I don't think that either, Danny. I think that, like, for me, if I play one game a week, let's say, right, and then sometimes I can't play one game every week because of kids or family reasons. So on average, let's say I play 3 games every week and I go to a tournament. For me at the moment, I literally get, I think I can go to a tournament once a quarter. If I started going to a tournament more than once a quarter, my wife would have a problem because 2 young kids by yourself for like 2 days will drive you mad if you can't get a break, right? So, like, realistically, in 6 months, I'm going to play 6 times 3. I'm going to play 18 games, and then I'm going to play like maybe another 6 or 8 at a tournament. So 20-25 games on one rule set, or on the missions, means that really I only get to play each mission like 2 or 3 times, and then the new book comes out. And I guess for me that's just too quick. Okay, and I mean, I'm, like I said, I'm probably not the normal, but we did do a poll on the channel, like, because I was like, do I not play enough? Because I try and play one game every week. Is that enough? And, like, you'd be surprised the amount of people that watch this channel do not play a game every week. I would say it was like 60% play less than one game a week. So 6 months seems like, even competitive players, 6 months seems like a quick time to turn a book around if people are only playing one game a week, right? Or less than. All right, Alejandro, you're gonna have to resubmit a list with actual, like, if you're gonna want the Centurions list, you're gonna have to send it to me to begin with. Okay. Let the heavy onslaught cannon. It's a reliable 12 shots via swingy D6 on the plasma. Yes, the plasma is valued better because of its AP. Right. My issue with that, Christian, is you're taking the heavy onslaught cannon to shoot at hordes, right? Because it's essentially got no AP against Armor of Contempt. So 90% of the time, where you feel like you're going to get good value from that heavy onslaught cannon, you're going to be shooting at models with more than 6. If you're shooting against a squad that's got more than 6, then your blast weaponry is getting, like, reliable number of shots, right? Because, like, blast gets more shots based on the number of models in the unit, right? So that's why I think that the plasma is just much better, because, I mean, if you're shooting hordes, they're not saving on -4, right? If you're shooting at least 6, then you're getting a minimum of 3 shots. And also, and bear in mind, Marines with, I guess, -4 are going to be only saving on 6s, and each one's going to kill a Marine as opposed to just do 1 wound to him. And then the other thing I think as well is the plasma gives you value against armor, which the onslaught cannon doesn't. And the plasma's also got 6 inches more range as well. So, like, if you're playing against someone that's running, like, let's say, Eradicators or something similar, like Multi-Malthus 24-inch range, then you can arguably outrange them with your Redemptors, unless they can move 12. then you can shoot at them and they can't shoot back. Whereas the Onslaught, you'd have to get within 6. So arguably, if they've got a 6-inch move and they've got a multi-melta, they're shooting you back. And Dreadnoughts don't really survive multi-melta shots now. Redemptors don't have an invulnerable save. So there's multiple reasons that I just don't like the Onslaught cannon. And I've 2 of my 3 Redemptors. I was going to say, is it 2? Or is it all 3? I think 2 of my 3 Redemptors, I magnetized the Onslaught cannon, the heavy Onslaught cannon in the plasma one, to be able to flip them out. And then I just, in practice, I literally never run the Onslaught. I just don't think it's as good. And I did some maths on it into different targets, and it just didn't seem as good. All right, we're looking at Andrew's list next. Andrew Westfall. Hey, Blood Angels Commander. Just getting into 40k, and I've created a first list. I have a bit of success against Necrons and Custodes, but I'm looking for any kind of advice right now. Secondaries are generally Blade of Sanguinius for the Death Company Captain, Death from Above, and Relentless Assault. I don't like Death from Above as a secondary, because I don't like, starting that much stuff off the board. The general game plan is to put Sangry Guard into reserve and Forlorn Fury Death Company forward and hope max Relentless Assault. Okay. I suppose it depends on how many RTTs you get to attend. 3 or 4 games at an event, even once a month, really pushes up your game per week average. That's true, DTM, but like I said, for me anyway, I will not agree to more than 1 tournament every quarter at the moment. I just can't do it with the kids. So I'm sure anyone that's got a couple of kids at a young age would be the same. Plasma Cannon is only good. V's Blood Angels army that have 6-7 Sangry Guard units. Almost every other Marine army is running 5-man squads. Yeah, but it's not just Marines, right? Like anything that's going to run a squad of 6 or more. So, like, if the enemy was going to run Inceptors, for example, or basically anything in Gravis armor, I think your heavy Onslaught cannon is going to do very little against Gravis, whereas your Plasma can potentially, every failed save is a dead model, you know? Like, it's stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to kill Poxwalkers, you're going to be more effective using the heavy Onslaught. But, like, typically if the enemy have big squads of Poxwalkers, you're not really going to be worrying about them anyway. You kill them with Death Company chainswords or something like that, right? Alright, so this is a patrol detachment for 1,000 points. I did a video where I broke down that heavy plasma cannon against the heavy Onslaught cannon. It'll be in one of the Redemptor videos, Christian. If you want to reach out to me on Discord or something, I can probably find the slide and show you like just how. And that was pre-Armor of Contempt. The Onslaught cannon was way better. Hey Ace, thank you so much for following. Jim says that he has a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and he totally agrees. Okay, so like, yeah, if you've got a couple of young kids, it's shitty to say to your wife, "Hey, you sat at home all week while I go to work. Now sit at home all week again while I go to a Warhammer tournament," right? That's the situation. So I feel like I can do 1 tournament a quarter. And even then, sometimes I feel bad because my wife I'll come home and she's like, "Oh my god, the kids have been a nightmare." My 2-year-old locked my wife in the garage today. So that's the sort of behaviour that we're dealing with. I got a phone call from my wife. She's like, "I've been locked in the garage." I was like, "Oh my god." I'm glad that I wasn't at work, right? Right, HQ Captain, Death Company Captain. He's got the Hammer of Baal, he's got an Infernal Pistol. Okay, 145 points. Seems expensive, but I guess the Thunder Hammer and the Death Company upgrade make him quite expensive, actually. Not that survivable for how many points he is. We've got Sangray Priest, who's got the Selfless Healer, and he is the Warlord. Interesting, we don't often see Selfless Healer, and we don't often see him as the Warlord anymore. We have a squad of Infiltrators. We then have a large squad of Death Company, and this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We've got a couple of Thunderhammers, a couple of Power Fists, 3 Infernal Pistols, a Hand Flamer, 2 more, so 5 Infernal Pistols in this squad. This squad's pretty beefed up, actually. We've got Suppressors, I guess, to prevent Overwatch from infantry, which could be valuable. We've got a couple of Vindicators, and the problem with the Vindicators typically is their Demolisher Cannon is so swingy in terms of the number of shots. Danny says he's a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I have no idea what they're doing because I left them. Okay. All right, you're joking. Okay. I would normally say Demolisher Cannons aren't good because they're D6 shots and they're D6 damage. I mean, they are toughness 8, they do have a 2-up save, they can swing a high and low, so maybe multiple Vindicators can work. We've got a Primaris Tech Marine who has no upgrades. And typically, I guess if you're running a Tech Marine, it's usually worth paying the 20 points to get the Master of the Forge to let him repair a full 3. But this is an interesting list in that we've got the Sanguinary Priest and the Tech Marine. We've got a Redemptor Dreadnought with the Frag Storms, the Rocket Pods, the Plasma, and the Gatling Cannons. So this is how I prefer to run them. I just still think the Stormbolter is always going to do better than the Frag Storm. There's very few situations where the Frag Storm is mathematically better than the Stormbolter. We've got 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard, all with swords, which is probably the right call right now. And then we've got a squad of Eliminators with the snipers, and a squad of Eradicators with the heavy metal rifles. Okay, interesting. Nothing Foot says people without kids don't understand the work involved trying to raise them. Keeping a 1-year-old from bumping his head 87 times a day is a full-time job. Yeah, we were actually the emergency room yesterday morning because our 9-month-old had bumped his head. So yeah. Fun times. Selfless Healer is just about too good not to take. I don't know if I feel like Selfless Healer is too good not to take. I think I prefer, if you're going to run a Sanguinary Priest, I think I prefer making him 120 points and putting Rites of War on him. Because I think adding the OBSEC to your units is more important than potentially bringing one back. And like in the couple of games that I played recently, you know, against the Sisters and then against the Eldar, there was never a situation where I could have ever brought a model back, right? Because like against the Sisters, I had like a squad of guys next to the priest, so I had the 6-up Feel No Pain. They wiped the whole squad. There's no one left to revive. Against the Eldar, it was pretty much exactly the same. Like I had a squad of 6 Sanguinary Guard that were like in cover, and they got completely blown away in a single turn. Again, no one left to revive. So if there's no one left to revive, how do you get value out of Selfless Healer? Where I think that Rites of War, personally, I just think it's the better pick. I think that quite a lot of people rate Rites of War pretty highly. But some people still love Selfless Healer. I guess it's a debate for another day. DTM says 9th edition is 2 killy units don't stick around. Yeah, I mean, if your Sanguinary Guard are ever left in the open, fully expect them all to die, with or without the 6+ Feel No Pain from the priest, and then there'll be no one left to revive, right? I really haven't run the Selfless Healer since they changed it from 135. Sorry, 135 up to 155. Okay, so this list is a bit like, he said he was a new player. Things I dislike, I guess, is the Sanguinary Priest as the Selfless Healer. Like, yeah, I think I just prefer it as Rites of War. The Giant Death Company actually seems fine because you've got all these Infernal Pistols. I just think Death Company get massive value from like Chapter Master rerolls. So I might be tempted to replace this Death Company captain. I think it would cost you like 25 more points to like lose the Death Company part and become a Chapter Master. Like, I think that's more valuable, especially if you're ever considering going to Forlorn Fury these guys. Suppressors are okay. I think I prefer the Whirlwind if you're picking them for Overwatch denial, because the Whirlwind can obviously deny anything that can Overwatch as opposed to suppressors who can just deny infantry. But I mean, they're okay. Vindicators are too swingy in my opinion. Like, I guess by having 2 of them, you reduce the swinginess, because rather than 1d6, it's 2d6. So arguably you like add weight of dice, but still, I think if you want Vindicators to work, and this might be crazy to say it, but I think if you want Vindicators to work, you need to run 3 Vindicators. I also dislike how little OBSEC you've got, in that you've just got that 1 unit of OBSEC, and sometimes like I run a list that has 3 units of OBSEC on it, and sometimes it feels like I lose games because I don't have enough OBSEC. The 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard are good. The Heavy Metal Rifle Eradicators, my opinion of those is they are very difficult to play correctly, because they can only move 5 inches and then shoot. And so basically they have a threat range of 29, which is pretty low. Yes, they do a ton of damage, It feels like if you're fighting an enemy that wants to come to you, heavy melt rifle eradicators are really good. However, if you're trying to go towards an enemy and deal with them that way, I feel like they're very difficult to play correctly. Um, they're not bad squad, but I think maybe if it was me, I'd probably prefer to run attack bikes. Attack bikes with multi-meltas are like 30 more points. They're a ton more mobile. They pretty much do the same damage. They have one more wound per bike. They can also be revived via the selfless healer. So that's kind of where I stand on the eradicators. And I was going to say, typically what we see is I've never run a list with a priest and a tech marine in it. I've seen some people do it. If people, Dirty Wizard, I have to work 55 hours a week, 5 days a week, and have 5 kids. Seriously, if I was allowed to work more, I would. Okay. Alright. Yeah, why? What do you do for work, Dirty Wizard? You must really love your job. Um, I've never actually run a priest with a list with a priest and a tech marine myself. I have both, but I've always kind of felt like you kind of want to pick one and lean on it. Like you either want to go priest or you want to go tech marine. And I always run a chapter master, and then sometimes I run a psyker. Throughout this edition, I've ran a lot of psychers. I've run the Firstborn Librarian in Terminator armor. I've run the Firstborn Librarian with a jetpack, and I've run Mephiston. So I guess I like psychers, but going into the debate about psychers is a whole other thing. Reziel says I've run a priest and tech marine and it didn't feel focused enough. John Turner says he's run a priest and a tech marine and it works great. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I've never done that. I don't know why I've never done it. I've just always felt like it it wasn't an option. I mean, I could do it. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it. I think neither of those characters do too much killing, I guess. So I guess that's my question is like, do you feel like you give up some killing potential by going a priest and a tech marine? But then characters don't do as much killing as they used to anyway. But yeah, I think my main focus on this list would be like try and get some more obstacle units in. Probably change out the character. And if you're thinking about upgrading stuff, then probably the Vindicators are the unit that I worry the most about in this list because D6 shots and D6 damage means that like it's hard to explain, but like see at a tournament, I would take flat 3 damage over D6 damage every day of the week because like you just know what you're getting. You know, like typically when you've got like D6 damage, when you need a really high roll to kill something, you don't want to be spending CP on damage rerolls. It's like CP are so valuable. That's the last thing I feel like you want to be spending them on. When I ran the ancient instead of a priest, I felt I missed the priest a lot. Yeah, I mean the priest's assault doctrine is like brilliant, right? Like it's really important. The Vindicator can one shot a knight or kill a guardsman. Yeah, and usually when you're at the tournament, it'll kill the guardsman, right? The chaplain or librarian does more work for Blood Angels over what over what. I'm already running the Vindicator. I'm not really running the Vindicator's for damage. Oh, Andrew's in the chat. Hey, Andrew, thanks for tuning in. A battlefield bunker is it's interesting. I have a Vindicator, and I tried to use it a couple of times. The problem is like if you run into somebody that's got like crappy chaff units that can bog you down in combat, your Vindicator can't shoot in combat, right? Because it's blast. So very quickly, those Vindicators can become useless. And, you know, 260 points of uselessness isn't brilliant. I would try and get, like, if you don't have any incursors, I would highly advise you get, like, a box of incursors. Get 2 5-man squads ready. And I might. I was going to say, I mean, like, a whirlwind just seems like a much better choice. And, like, I ran suppressors a couple of times, and I ran suppressors and I made them in turn one hang out next to my chapter master. Because suppressors, the big problem with suppressors, if you move them, you only hit on fours, right? Because they've got heavy weapons. Um, so you need them to sort of stay static, and they can stay static, I think, because their autocannons have like a great range on them. Like it's like I think it's a 48-inch range, so the range isn't the problem. They're just the second you move them, you're only hitting on fours, so they're not really there to do any damage either. I guess you could argue the suppressors are only there to suppress enemy units, but if that's the case, then would you not be better off with the whirlwind, right? Because the whirlwind also doesn't do any damage, but the whirlwind can suppress anything, whereas the suppressors can only suppress infantry. Um, yeah, I didn't think the suppressors, even hanging out next to my chapter master, I felt like they didn't do very much damage either. The Primaris Tech Marine is definitely worthwhile. I mean, a Tech Marine is worthwhile if you've got any sort of vehicle. I think a Tech Marine with a Dreadnought is brilliant, and you've got that. I just don't think I love a Tech Marine with Vindicators. Hippo says I forgot suppressors were a thing. Yeah, I mean they were the most. Suppressors never got an individual release. They were like they were like put in that Phobos box, and then like completely forgotten about. They've done that a few times with 9th edition models. It seems like they've released something that was going to be cool, and then just, I guess, let them fall to the wayside. The main thing for the suppressors, they don't cost CP deny the Overwatch. Yeah, but they're only denying Overwatch into infantry, and unless you're playing Tau, then that's not that useful, I guess, right? Because like when I deny Overwatch, it's like I don't know, I'm gonna charge a knight that's got a bunch of heavy flamers on it or something. Um, and the other good thing about the Whirlwind's Overwatch denial is that it can also make an enemy fight last, which in turn can prevent them using counter offensive. So if you're making 2 charges in the same turn, you can fight with 1 charge, let's say on the right hand side of the board. The unit on the left hand side of the board you made fight last, so then you can fight with your other charging unit and they have no ability to pay the 2 CP to counter offensive, which is also kind of strong. And sometimes Blood Angels, like we talk about, we do a lot of damage when we charge, but we don't survive overly well when we get charged or when the enemy fights back. So sometimes the Whirlwind can be worth its weight in gold for that. So, I mean, like, I'm just giving you my 2 cents. I think the things that, like, I feel like I wouldn't run your list. And the things, like, from my previous experiences, the suppressors and the vindicators are things that I'd instantly be thinking, like, I don't like these. I also think that the chapter master just gives so, like, some people think the chapter master's 40 points upgrade is expensive. I just think it's so valuable. And I also think one squad of snipers, we've talked about this, if you're just going to run a single squad of snipers, you're realistically not going to kill that much. They'll kill like a character a game, but if it's going to take you the whole game to kill a character, then like they're not really any big threat to the opponent, right? So if you're going to run eliminators, just one squad, I'd recommend you take the last fusel and instigators so you can move, shoot, move. And if you're going to run unless you're going to run multiple squads of snipers, but I mean, snipers aren't really a Blood Angel thing. I mean, they can be. They're just not typically what we would run. I didn't know that they only prevented infantry Overwatch. How long has it been since I've had suppressors on the table, says DTM? Yeah, I mean, it's always been that. Put a Terrax on the board rather than a Vindicator. Yeah, I mean, the Terrax is super nasty and charging as well, right? For Blood Angels, because you get the 2 additional attacks from the Terrax for being like Shock Assault and Savage Echoes. So Terrax is actually really good for Blood Angels. We don't see them all that often, but I mean, you can put Firstborn Death Company in there, nice and cheap. Good evening, Junior. Thanks for tuning in. If they get this, you like the concept of this list? Oh, for like the Vindicators, yeah. I mean, if Vindicators get the Chaos Space Marine buffs, then maybe they are good. But right now, yeah, I don't know. I've played Vindicators, I've played Suppressors, and like after I played them in like 1 or 2 games, I was like, I'm dropping these. I just don't like them at all, right? All right, Bloody Narc is the 3rd list for tonight, and he's saying he's been watching the channel for ages. Congratulations, thank you so much, Bloody. This list is aimed to have some range damage, dangerous characters, and good buffs to the big melee hitters. There's many lists like this. The aim is to have lots of units to give lots of tactical flexibility. Sorry. The problems I foresee with this list are the fact that it's 4 characters, a low number of starting CP. I plan to keep Terminators in reserve and then drop them with an important objective and cover and make them tough to shift. Lots of melee with good support and the Whirlwind ability. Both Land Speeder and Assault Squad are for utility. The Death Company for an early charge. Astaroth and Dante is a luxury, but both can score for the Blood Angel secondary if required. Okay, so this is a battalion, I think. Warzone Nephilim. How many CP is he starting with? 2. I think 2 is okay. I think you can start the game with 2 CP now. I think 3 is better, but I think 2 is fine. I don't think that's a problem. Di, good evening. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. John says I got a Spartan tank on eBay today, £31 plus 5 for postage from the Horus Heresy box. Doubt I'd use it for Blood Angels, but fancied one. I mean, a Spartan transfers like 30 models, right? Like, you could get like, I think you can even put a Dreadnought inside the Spartan, John. Like 2 Death Company squads and a Death Company Dreadnought. Could be fun. It's toughness 8. It's got 20 wounds. Fly it straight up the middle of the table. Smoke screen it. Something like that. I need to get that Spartan at some point. I just have a big backlog of stuff. Alright, we've got Astaroth. And then, you know what? We've got the exact same character choices, list number 1 today. So Dante is the Warlord, Astaroth and Canticle, and then the Selfless Healer with Teeth of Terra. Okay, we've got 1 Incursor squad and 2 Auto Bolt Rifle Intercessor squads. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of Auto Bolt Rifles. Statistically, they don't do very much damage. The second you charge with any squad of like Incursors or Assault Intercessors, you're going to do more damage than you ever do with the Auto Bolt Rifles. So I guess it just depends if you think 15 0 AP Strength 4 shots 24 inches on Auto Bolt Rifles. I don't play them myself, but I assume it would be 24 inches. Like, if you think there's a value in that, yeah, then go for it. But yeah, when I tried to do, I've done a video on the maths of these things, and like for me, I always just try and find the 5 points to get Incursors, and then I do like having a squad of Assault Intercessors because they get 26 attacks, a squad of Assault Intercessors, once you hit Savage Echoes. And they can reserve them very cheap. 26 Chainsword attacks at -2. It can do a lot of damage for a 95-point model unit, right? Auto Bolt Rifles fire triple the shots of Incursors or an Infiltrators. Yeah, but the problem is it's Strength 4, 0 AP. So, I mean, like, you know, who's, like, my Sangre Guard, for example, they're all Strength 4, -1 damage, right? So arguably Sangre Guard, yes, they get like 1 shot less per gun, but they've got 1 more EP, and most people are running like 20 Sangre Guard, right? So every Sangre Guard gets like 2 shots, right? And most of the time your Sangre Guard are maybe near the Warlord, so they're hitting better and they're re-rolling ones as well, potentially. So like the amount of times that I would take a squad of Sangre Guard, like let's say 7 Sangre Guard, with re-rolls to hit, and hitting on 2s because we're near the Warlord and we shoot at something and they kill they do 1 wound or they do nothing. So like that happens all the time to me. So I feel like Auto Bolt Rifles, like that, they're generally going to be worse. So like, why do people see value in them compared to like, you know, like I just said, 26 attacks with -2 Chainswords coming in from reserve for a 5-point cheaper model on the Assault Intercessors, or putting turn 1 pressure on objectives with Incursors because you can make a turn 1 charge and lock up some sort of tough. When I was playing against Tau, I think I just turn one charged into like a giant squad of battle suits or something, just to make, you know, like, yeah, that they're not going to kill any battle suits, but the battle suits are either going to have to fall back, they're going to have to pay CP, you know, just to basically be a problem, right? Um, okay, we've got a Death Company with jump packs and 3 Thunderhammers. We've got the Ancient with the Wrath of Baal and Rites of War. And it's kind of annoying that he's got 4 characters because, like, for me, 4 characters seems like a huge investment in points, you know, like 575 points in characters. Personally, I don't like spending that much on my characters. Like, I try and keep it under 400 and I kind of try and keep it to 3. But, you know, the Sangre Ancient is a very powerful character, especially with Wrath of Baal. You then have Death Company with 6 swords, Death Company with 6 swords. You've got Terminators all with lightning claws, and it's 5 Terminators. I would have loved to see the Sergeant rocking a Thunderhammer because I feel like that extra attack from the Sergeant, the Thunderhammer, it can be really nice. You can also Mastercraft the Sergeant's Thunderhammer, which I think is pretty nice as well. We have Assault Squad, and this will be like a 5-man squad with a couple of melta guns in it and an Infernal Pistol. We got Landspeeder with the multi-melta. We got Eradicators with the Las Fusils ×2, and the Sergeant with the Bolt Carbine, so we get the move, shoot, move. And then we get the Whirlwind with the Castle Launcher. So I like the heavy support choices a lot more in this list. I like the Assault Squad and the Landspeeder in terms of, like, good for Relentless Assault, good for performing that one date or something, a little bit of firepower. I dislike the 4 characters, and I think you've got a big emphasis on them. I dislike the intercessors, but a few people are talking about the intercessors. Rezio says, I'm not swapping my assault intercessors for some auto bolt right intercessors. Tournament data showing they're quite good. It's less auto bolt rifle intercessors are the best source of bolter fire. It's that they're the best source of bolter fire in the troop slot. I mean, sure, but like, I don't know if I guess I just don't think bolters are as cracked up to what they used to be, right? Even like Sangre Guard bolters with -1 on them. It's rarely exciting. You know, like, we can chip away a wound. Like, I think this week, I shot like a whole squad of Sangre Guard at a jet bike, and we got 1 wound off the jet bike or something. You know, like, bolter fire, I think in 9th, as it stands right now, bolter fire is generally kind of crappy. Okay. So too many points in characters that I dislike. I do like your relics, and your Wrath of Baal is really nice for the jump pack units. 2 squads of Sangre Guard is nice. The Death Company with hammers, I would have loved to see a 4th hammer, but it's hard to fit it in. Bolters can kill elves. I mean, yeah, sure. Alexander, thank you so much for subscribing. I would have loved to see a Thunderhammer on this Terminator squad. I would probably prefer to see a Thunderhammer on the Terminator Sergeant over like a couple of melta guns on the Assault Squad, because I feel like your Assault Squad are there to perform actions. The double move on the Eliminators, yeah, I mean, it seems like a decent list, and it seems like it sort of covers like a wide spectrum. I feel like it doesn't do anything overly well, right? Like, it's got a little bit of shooting, it's got a decent amount of close combat. I'd say these 3 squads plus the Wrath of Baal are pretty decent, but like, it feels like it could just use a tiny bit more, you know, like another couple of Infernal Pistols. Ambo, thank you so much for becoming a member. Welcome to the channel. I don't think we've met before. That's very, I do appreciate it. Please link your YouTube account to Discord and get access to our members only room, and please come and say hi. If you have trouble with that, like, you can leave me a comment and we'll figure it out. The rapid fire bolters are probably best right now, at least in Tactical Doctrine. Against Armor of Contempt targets, you get a legit -1 AP. Yeah, I mean, the problem with Blood Angels is you never sit in Tactical Doctrine, right? Dirty Wizard says, I'm missing something. Jim says dedicated transport is destroyed if no models are inside it. He's not 100% right. The ruling is, Dirty Wizard, that you can't bring a dedicated transport if you don't have a single squad that will fit inside it, I think. So, like, you couldn't bring a Landspeeder Storm unless you had some, like, scouts that could go into it. So, if you... I think the the reason to do that, I think the reason they changed it was because Drukhari were bringing tons of raiders, and raiders are like, at one point they were literally obnoxiously costed. I think they're more reasonable now. I think at one point they were like 75 points a model, and now they're about 95 or 100. But when they were 75, they were just so good, and you just see every Drukhari list like lining up against you with like 8 raiders, and some of the raiders would just be empty. They were just such a good transport. So you have to have models that can fit inside it. It was in an FAQ. I can't remember the exact wording, but it basically means like you couldn't take an impulsor, for example, if you have nothing on your army that can fit inside it. And I want to say they have to be inside it at the start of the game as well, but I mean I don't run dedicated transports enough to remember the exact wording on it. But like once you disembark from the transport, you're all good, right? So yeah, this list, Bloody Narc. I think my biggest problem with it is probably the character. 4 characters just seems like it eats up so much points. 575 points on characters. I feel like by spending that much on characters, you weaken yourself in other places, and I guess that's why I feel like your heavy support is okay, but it's a little bit weak. Your close combat is okay, but it's a little bit weak. Like if this was my list, because I'd literally spent 200 less points on characters, I would have like another whole squad of Sangre Guard. And then I'm thinking, right, my close combat is actually really good now if I've got 1 Death Company, 3 Sangre Guard, and a Terminator squad, right? And I think that's where I stand with the 4 characters. You obviously give up some points for Assassinate, but I guess if you play your characters really well and you use all their warlord traits and relics and you sacrifice them to keep squads alive, it can definitely be a solid list. But I've moved away from 4 characters. I feel like I'm probably never going to pick 4 characters again unless there's a really, really, really solid reason for me to do it. And it doesn't necessarily mean HQ, because I was running, I think, the Sangre Priest, the Sangre Ancient, and a Chapter Master for a little while. So like 2 HQ and one of my characters was an elite choice. If a transporter is empty at the start of the game, it's destroyed. All right, thank you for confirming that. S3N1X, S31N1X. You need to give me a slang name to say you for your name, so I don't have to say that strange name. A lot of people assume that it was implied. All right, that they have to be inside the transport at the start of the game. Yeah, that makes sense though. All right, so I mean, this is overall is a decent list, and there's not too much to change. I think I would probably lose the melta guns on the assault squads. One reason that I actually really like keeping like an infernal pistol, Stenix. Oh, you told me to call you Manuel. All right, sorry, Manuel. One reason that I actually like infernal pistols and Sangre Guard squads is all my lists we're still doing 40k at the moment. Go sucked. I haven't bought the 30k box set yet. I have too big a backlog of models to paint at the moment. I want to buy the 30k box set, but I've not got there yet. One of the reasons I like Infernal Pistols and Sangre Guard squads, and if I'm reserving the Sangre Guard squad, thank you for following. I typically don't put Infernal Pistols in it. If I'm starting on the board, then I do. And my thought behind it is like, if the enemy charges me, or if I end up in combat with something that I can't kill, you know, Sangre Guard don't get that many attacks if they can't make a charge, right? You know, like when we charge in turn 3, it's 5 attacks. If we don't charge, it's just 3 attacks. And we don't get our +1 to wound if we didn't charge as well, which is a big deal, right? Because the +1 to wound is kind of what makes their strength 5 and 6 weaponry legitly good. So sometimes having a couple of Infernal Pistols in the Sangre Guard, if it means you can use the Infernal Pistols to kill something in the shooting phase, essentially break out of combat and then charge something else, that actually can give you a lot of value. So like, Metal Guns on the Assault Squad is fine. If this was me, though, I'd probably keep the Assault Squad cheaper and put some Infernal Pistols through the Sangre Guard squad, or even one in the Death Company as well. The problem with the Death Company is if you do Forlorn Fury them, they're very, very rarely alive ever to need to break out of combat, and they have shitty morale anyway, so... but Sangre Guard, sometimes, you know, sometimes they can live in combat, you want to break them out. Just this week, the Eldar player, he charged 7 of my Sangre Guard with Wraith Blades, and I 2 Sangre Guard lived, and of course I kept the 2 alive that had the Infernal Pistols, and then I shoot the Infernal Pistols and basically evaporated one of the Wraith Blades in his turn. So, I mean, that's the value of Infernal Pistols, I guess. Alright, we're going to move on and have a look at Luke's list next. And, yeah. Alright, so here's a very recent Dreadnought updated list for the battle in Birmingham in 2 weeks' time. Oh, hopefully I got to this list in time. Oh yeah, he submitted this 3 days ago. Okay, so I desperately needed a Psyker last time and was about to take Mephiston till the Blade video. Opted for Unleash Rage over Quickening, as I've taken Icon of the Angel and Damage Boost is going to be useful for the Death Company Sangre Guard at some point. Alright, let's see what he's got. He's also starting on 2 CP. He's got the 5-man Voidsman at Arms. I really wish my Voidsman at Arms had been commissioned already, and I would be using them as well. He's got Dante with Heroic Bearing. He's got a Librarian Dreadnought with Unleash Rage and Wings. He's taken Champion of Humanity, and interestingly, I was going to say, he's not gone Chief Librarian or upgraded him with a Psychic Mastery. He's gone for the build that I talked about, where Champion of Humanity is going to give you +1 to hit, which is going to counter his crappy weapon skill of 3. So the problem is going to be you're probably going to need to save a CP for the Psychic test, because the Psychic test is only going off on a 6, and you really need it to go off with a high number. Bloody Narc, you're more than welcome. Thanks for submitting a list. There wouldn't be an army list show, guys, if you didn't submit lists to me, so thank you for that. Hopefully, I always say when I go over these lists, to please maybe just play the game one more time with your current list and think about the things I said, because I feel like if you just instantly change to my suggestions, it might be the wrong call. Like, I think it'd be better to just play your list again and try and remember what I said over, in your head when you're playing, in the last list where I said, like, I don't like 2 Vindicators. Well, you're going to have a turn with your 2 Vindicators where they're either stuck in combat or you roll double 1 for the number of shots, and you're going to be like, yeah, this is actually not good. This is why, like John said, change it out, right? That's actually the 6-man Voidsman Arms. Did I say 5? Sorry, 48 points is the 6-man. Yeah, it's 5 with las guns, and the sergeant can take a shotgun, I believe. Okay, so Champion of Humanity gives the Librarian Dreadnought +1 attack and +1 when he's fighting characters. For his weapon skill, I think it gives him +1 to wound as well, but it doesn't stack with Red Thirst. I mean, technically you would have +2 to wound, but you wouldn't be able to make use of that unless the enemy had like an ability that was going to make you -1 to wound, right? Champion of Humanity. Yeah, so it would play. I mean, your Librarian Dreadnought's hitting at strength 10 and strength 12. So your strength 12 with +2 to wound. So you're winning on 2s. Even if they have -1 to wound, you're probably still winning on 2s. But I mean, that could be countered by Transhuman or something like that. Can he have 2 Hero of the Chapter? Who can we have 2 Heroes of the Chapter? Yeah, we can have 2 Heroes of the Chapter. We are allowed 2 Heroes of the Chapter, 2 Relics of the Chapter, the Warlord, and then you're also allowed Angel's Exemplar, and you're allowed Angel's Ascendant as well. So I mean, technically, you can actually spend like 7 or something. The Sangre Priest is also carrying Icon of the Angel, so reroll charges around the Sangre Priest. Interesting that you've not taken Rites of War. I think he's a great character for Rites of War, so it's something to consider. 2 Assault Intercessor squads, and then Cursor squad. Death Company with 3 Infernal Pistols and 5 Power Fists. So interestingly, these guys are about the same cost, I think, as maybe even 5 points cheaper than 4 Thunderhammers. 3 Infernal Pistols, I think, to get value out of them, you 100% need Chapter Master rerolls, but you do have that, and then you could Unleash Rage. So this Death Company could probably do quite a bit of work. Similar, might even be a better... might even be better for like opening up transports. 3 Infernal Pistols into a transport and then Power Fist everything that was on side. I don't know if the Infernal Pistols is enough to kill a transport. But I mean, Chapter Master rerolls would help a lot, right? You got Sanguine Ancient with Soul Warden, Infernal Pistol, and the Wrath of Baal. I like Soul Warden on the Sanguine Ancient. I think that's a good, strong pick. It gives you 2 bubbles of Feel No Pain, which I think can be pretty valuable. You've got the 3 squads of Sanguine Guard. You've got an Infernal Pistol in each one. You've got mostly swords and a couple of axes. That's all good all around. You got the squad of Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws, Storm Shields in there as well, and then Sergeant with Devil Lightning Claw. That is also good. You got that 6-man assault squad, so they're going to be able to perform some data if you need them. You got a couple of plasma pistols and a lightning claw on the sergeant, 3 plasmas exactly, and then a whirlwind as well. Okay, this is a pretty interesting list. 4 Thunderhammers are 165 points. So what are you? 5 points more expensive? How does that work? Oh, a Power Fist 10 points per model. Okay, I was thinking Power Fists were 5. Yeah. Okay, so this is a 4-character, basically all-in melee combat list. 3 Sanguine Guard, Vanguard Veterans, Death Company, Assault Intercessors, Whirlwind to prevent Overwatch and make something fight last, Incursors, Assault Intercessors, Voidsmen, Sanguinary Priest, Librarian Dread, Dante. Okay, so I mean it's an all-in melee list. And I played something very similar to this at a recent tournament. I think I had I don't think I had the 4th character. I think I just had a 3-man squad of Eradicators. I didn't have the assault squad. I had a land speeder with a multi-mill, right? In this list, I think can perform pretty well. Is there anything I dislike? I dislike there's no Rites of War. I think that's a really valuable pick. I think I would take Rites of War on the Sanguinary Priest over Icon of the Angel. Can you do that though? No, because you've got Hero of the Chapter on the Ancient and you've got Hero of the Chapter on the Dreadnought, so you couldn't do that. Okay, that's annoying. Then maybe this is okay. I mean, you do have the 3 OBSEC choices. I'd love it if one of the second squads was also Incursors, because I think they're just a bit more mobile than the Assault Intercessors. Yeah, so OBSEC isn't great. A lot of investment in characters. You've got really good Blade of Sanguinius character potentially here, but you're going to be basing it on the psychic test, which can be unreliable. Dirty Wizard hopes the Whirlwind gets a drop in points. I was actually surprised it didn't get a drop last time round, considering how little damage it does. If you compare it to some of those orc buggies that still do a lot more damage than that, they're a lot cheaper as well. I think a list like this can be decent. I'm not going to play it again, though, because I think my main problem is that there's basically hard counters into this list. And the hard counters, the thing that I had where, against the Eldar, they had Jane Czar, which is everything in engagement range is going to fight last. So I know that, wherever she goes, I'm fighting last, and she's wiping, a whole squad of guys. There's nothing I can really do into that except potentially Angel Sacrifice, and then I'm losing my character as well. And Jane Czar is a Phoenix Lord, which means she can only lose 3 wounds per phase, which means she's going to be alive in multiple fight phases, which means even if I Angel Sacrifice, next turn I'm fighting last again and she's killing another squad of mine, right? So I dislike the all melee strategy like this. Now, some people have made this work by putting that 5-man block of Centurions in there, and we're going to be talking about that next week on the tactics video. But this list will do decent, and I took this list to basically the final of a tournament. Like I said, the only difference I think was I had a land speeder, I didn't have the Voidsmen, I had Eradicators and I think that was it. So I didn't have the Voidsman. Yeah, I think that was it. And maybe my Vanguard Veterans were all Lightning Claw, Storm Shield. I didn't have double Lightning Claw on the top guy. And it can do very well, and it can beat a lot of units, and it can win combat engagements everywhere. And if suppression fire is used right, it can obviously prevent Overwatch and prevent the enemy fighting when they need to. So like it can do a lot of work, but like I think there's a cap on this list. Unless you're amazing at positioning and you can angel sacrifice to save units like all the time, then I think this list is very difficult to win events with. And this is why recently I've been looking at like bringing back some fire support into Blood Angels. And like I used to run more fire support. You know, I used to run attack bikes. I used to run dreadnoughts. Used to run eliminators as well. And I think that all those things have got better since Armor of Contempt. So you could use some. And I think the winning strategy right now is to probably try and stay on 3 characters, maybe lose 1 jump unit or 1 like fast attack unit and bring in that fire support. So if there is something, and you know, like one of the things that I play often is Sisters of Battle. Repentia and Seraphim will 100% delete Blood Angels units every single turn. And he'll have more of those units than you because they're cheaper and you'll be able to spam them, and he has obnoxious threat range, right? Like the Repentia can move 6, they can auto advance 6, and then they can 3d6 charge, which means arguably they're more reliable on like 23 inches away than Sangre Guard are. So yeah, I think it's a fine list. I don't know how to win events with it. I tried. I got close. That's my feedback on it. Sorry, I missed something in the chat. What's the rule? I was aware that a lot of big events banned an ability. What ability are we talking about? Oh right, it's like a revival ability from the Sarazars. Yeah. Well, I don't know if we'll have to wait that. They're probably going to do because they've got the balance slate probably due in like 3 weeks. Surely with the balance slate, we'll get an FAQ as well, right? But yeah, it does seem. I don't know. Sometimes it seems Games Workshop. I think like for a while there, they were very reactive in ninth. Now it seems like they want to get on that schedule of like 3 months, 6 months, and stay on the schedule. So it's like, you know, we've seen that basically Sisters and Necrons are scoring crazy high at every event. Necrons can basically sit on their side of the board and get 100 points in every game, right? But it almost feels like they're just gonna let it play out for the 3 months, and then they're gonna change it. Because I can't imagine there won't be any changes to the Necron secondaries. Because when I don't play Necrons, and I haven't played, I tried to get a game on them on the channel recently, but when Andrew told me, he was like, "Oh, their secondaries are just insane. You basically just have to sit on objectives on your side of the board, and you're gonna score so many points." And then the Sisters have like they have a secondary where they can score all 15 points in turn 1. And I was like, okay. Like it's, you know, every other secondary in the game is like if you have to do an action on each objective, you have to do it like, you know, in a different turn. But it's like no, the Sisters can just do all the actions on all the objectives in turn 1 if they want to. You know, it's crazy. I think we could get hot fixes if they could finally move to digital rules, Jacob. And we did move to digital points costs. You know, with the last chapter approved, so maybe. That's happening. Campbell says that he thinks that list would struggle against Dark Angels list. That's probably valid as well, actually, Campbell. That list might struggle into a -1 damage enemy like Death Guard as well. Death Guard have that character that's what's his name? The Foul Blight spawn. And if he's positioned well and they're using that relic, I think a melee list like that has no counter against him, right? Because you don't count as charging, which means you get no +1 to charge. You get no +1 to attack from Shock Assault. You get no +1 from Sacaged Echoes, and you don't get your +1 from Red Thirst. And that takes away like half the damage of our units. And then Death Guard are also -1 damage. So I think like if I was a Death Guard player, I would probably run like a Foul Blight spawn in all my lists just because if you're positioning him well against like a melee heavy threat that requires or gets bonuses from charging, like Space Marines do, it hurts them so bad. And they also get 2 ways of fight last. So you can pick a unit within 6 to like fight last, and anything within 3 also fights last. You should start thinking about invaders with multi-meltas for fire support. I mean, invaders aren't core though, Christian. So like, are regular attack bikes not just better, and also regular attack bikes can be revived. Someone mentioned invaders in a comment this week actually, but I didn't get into it yet. Yeah, I know the Silent King is very strong at the moment, Reziel. I've heard that there's like, I don't know anything about the rules, or I don't know what Games Workshop are doing, but I imagine that the Silent King he's not going to come through this battle slate or data slate unscathed. Like, something is going to change with him, I think. Because my understanding is that people are saying like he's just ridiculous, and it's when the model becomes like auto include like that they change something, right? All right, Matt's list. He says, John, first time poster, long time viewer of the channel. Thought I'd stop by and share a list and see if you have any tweaks. All right, another. He's starting on 5 CP. This is the most we've seen tonight. 2,000 points. He's got Dante with the Warlord and Heroic Bearing. He's got Lamartez, who has Litany of Faith and Canticle of Hate. Interesting. We really don't see Lamartez get much play. We also have the Sanguinary Priest, who is the Chief Apothecary, and he's got the Teeth of Terra. Okay. Incursors, Intercessors, and Intercessors, and we've got those bolt rifles, which Danny was saying is probably the best in terms of like bolt or fire, because they can be -1. I mean, they're fine. Just personally, I prefer Incursors. We've got an Aggressor squad, and this is the aggressors. This is 5 aggressors. Is that how much points they cost now? I've got 6 aggressors with bolters, but I never run them. Divide by 5. Yeah, okay. So aggressors are 45 points a model. 45 points a model for aggressors seems steep. Maybe if their melee attacks weren't -1 to hit, because it seems a bit silly. They've got like these custom built Bolt Storm gauntlets, but they're -1 to hit. Maybe if they weren't -1 to hit, I'd feel better about them. Because I feel like aggressors don't get that many attacks. Let me check. It's been ages since I ran aggressors. They were really good in 8th, but they got really hit hard in 9th. They get the same amount of attacks as Blade Guard veterans, but they're -1 to hit. They're the same AP and they're the same 2 damage. So arguably, they just hit a bit weaker than the Blade Guard veterans. Do you know what? They probably hit similar, but like if you're fighting tougher things because they're strength ×2, you probably hit 1 less, but you wound 1 more, so it probably kind of averages out. But they're 10 points more expensive per model. I'm not a huge fan of aggressors right now. Maybe the flamer ones are more something I would prefer. I suppose, Christian, you are right. I did say that we aren't resurrecting many models these days. Maybe attack bikes are toughness 5 and 4 wounds, so maybe that's something that's more likely to get a revive. But yeah, hadn't considered running Invader ATVs actually. The problem I have with Invader ATVs over like a land speeder, I guess, would be, I think land speeder has 1 more toughness, 2 less wounds. But land speeder is going to count for engage on all fronts, but then we haven't, honestly, engage on all fronts doesn't get picked nearly as much anymore. Aggressors are good with Unleash Rage, says John. I mean, I guess they're slow though. I don't see a situation that I would pick aggressors over Centurions. Ever since I got lucky buying 9 flame aggressors and I've run 5 every game, they've been brilliant, says Bruin Biscuits. Okay. Yeah, I thought the flamers would be better. Okay, we got Death Company with 1 Thunderhammer. We got Death Company with 10 man. 5 with 1 Thunderhammer, and then like 10 man with 3 Thunderhammer and a Power Fist. We got Sanguinary Guard with 5 with 4 swords. sorry, 5 swords and Infernal Pistol. We got Sangre Guard with 5 with all power fists. I really dislike that squad. It's just Sangre Guard swords are just better, I think, and you save the 20 points and try and get an extra model as opposed to putting power fists on. The only time the power fists are going to benefit you really is like if you've got Chapter Master rerolls up, which I mean, I guess he does have Dante in here, so maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but like, I'd rather that they had Infernal like if you're paying the extra 5 points per model, I'd rather go Infernal Pistols and Swords than Power Fists, I think. Land Speeders are better than the Invader ATVs. I mean, Land Speeders have a little bit more synergy than the Invader ATVs, but they're a little cheaper as well. I guess you give up some bolters and some attacks, so it's not something we've seen a lot of, right? Invader ATVs, like ever since they came out, I'm not sure I've really not seen that many people go with them. Like, what's the problem with them? Like, is it just the lack of core? Because they aren't that expensive, right? Like, they're 85 points per model. I mean, before it might have been because they didn't count for engaging all fronts, because they're not vehicles. So that could be a negative thing for them. They get 6 shots with the auto bolt rifle, and then they do get 6 attacks. And they are Primaris, right? So you could transhuman them. Not that many people do, right? And they have 8 wounds. I mean, I don't have Invader ATVs. Maybe I need to buy one at one point. I don't like these 5-man squads of Sangre Guard, though. I don't think 5-man squads of Sangre Guard do enough damage. You have 4 Eradicators here with melt rifles. You've got your Eliminators with the Las Fusils and the Bolt Carbine. You got 1 solitary attack bike. Again, this would be better if it was a land speeder. If you're just going to run an attack bike, run a land speeder, because if you ever want to take engage in all fronts, it's just going to be better. Matt says you just finished a game. Multi-melt attack bikes are great. Fair enough. Invader ATVs look cool. They do. Have you seen the one that was painted in Mario Kart style? I don't know why I never bought the Invader ATV. I bought that stupid turret about the same time the Invader ATV run got released, and I've never used that turret in a game. I haven't even painted it. I just sprayed it. So that I was going to say, it makes sense to have 2 Death Company here because you've got Lamartis, right? So Lamartis is going to be like someone that's pretty positive at buffing Death Company, so that's good. My problem, though, I think, is the 2 Sangre Guard squads are just too small. I'd probably cut like 5 man out of this Death Company, get 100 points back, and like add 2 Sangre Guard to 1, and I mean, lose all these power fists, actually, because those power fists are 25 points. So basically, you could cut, like, so you could run 2 5-man Death Company, 1 with 3 hammers, or you could run 4 hammers in one and a fist in the other, and then you could make both these Sangre Guard 7-man squads, which I would feel much more comfortable about. Your fire support seems decent enough. The characters seem decent enough. I don't know if I think, like, Phyla Martez over Astaroth, because Astaroth seems like the better choice for Death Company, especially if you're going to run a big Death Company. Like if you're not gonna switch out this and you want to keep your big 10-man Death Company, then Lamartez lets them use his leadership, but Astaroth lets them auto pass leadership, and also Astaroth gets his special litany that's like potentially gives the Death Company a 4-up invulnerable save. I think the issue with ATVs is they're 85 points for 2 shots. It's a lot to pay. It's a Gladiator Lancer problems, but on a smaller scale. Yeah, I mean, like a land speeder, 2 shots for 70 points, an attack bike, 2 shots for 60 points. I suppose it depends on how you want to play them, right? Brew and Biscuit's been considering running Relic Terminators. Yeah, I mean, I think Relic Terminators with Lightning Claws and Storm Bolters. Well, it's not Storm Bolters, is it? It's like Combi Bolters, or what are they called? Relic Terminators. Yeah, it's combi bolters, yeah. But they are a storm bolter for all intents and purposes. They just look different, I guess. There's, it's crazy to think, like, I've been collecting Blood Angels for so long, but, like, sometimes when we talk about this, I'm like, fuck, I've got I don't own any Invader ATVs, I don't own any Relic Terminators, and I think there was another unit there that I was like, I don't own these either. Gladiator Lancers, I don't own one of them either, so at some point, many, many years from now, I'll get there. Big Death Company means always Astaroth. Yeah, I mean, I think the Landspeeder Tornado with multi-melt and assault cannon is the same cost as ATV. Why not take the speeder at that point? That's true, Turkey, and we always talk about that Landspeeder being ineffective because you're paying like 15 points for assault cannon. So yeah, I think if you want to run Landspeeders, you probably just want to run like the naked 70-point Landspeeder with the multi-melt. I think it's the best way. I reckon we'll get Primaris Lumartes in the lower on the tabletop at some point to help him overcome his affliction, like we did for Mephiston. I think next character should be Primaris Dante, though, based on what's been shared in the book so far. I've never, like, I guess I've just never seen an Invader ATV get played transhuman on it. But then here's the problem with transhuman, like, I used to run Blade Guard veterans all the time. The amount of times I transhuman them and they die anyway. So, like, transhuman to me sometimes feels like a bit of a trap if you have to spend CP on it. Because, for example, if the enemy starts shooting my Blade Guard and I transhuman them, they either suddenly stop and shoot everything at something else, or they double down on them and kill them anyway. So either way, I've wasted the CP. So I find transhuman quite a hard stratagem to know when to play. Alright, so this list, I think I'd like to see more Sanguinary Guard. I'm not a huge fan of the aggressors with bolters. I think they'd be much stronger if they had the flamers. I guess if you got the priest and you're going middle with them, it's fine, but at 45 points a model, they don't seem overly brilliant. I haven't run my aggressors in a long time, and I have 6 of them, so maybe I need to run them again. But like, I tried running them a couple of times in 8th, and I felt like, I mean, they don't hit reliably because of -1 to hit. They shoot okay, but they're all strength 4 and no AP. So at that point, are you not better just maybe taking a Terminator squad, and then aggressors just move 5 inches, right? Like the Terminators move the same 5. So would you not be better running Terminators and getting a bit more movement, or getting the deep strike potential, etc.? I just bought this Darkness in the Blood and the Sons of Sanguinius Omnibus to bring something to read on my vacation. That's so cool. I just got them both as well recently. I also got Blood Quest. Did you get Blood Quest? I haven't read Blood Quest at all though, but I need to. I need to read it. Maybe I'll need to do a review actually on Blood Quest for the channel. Aggressors can advance and shoot. Yeah. They used to be able to stay stationary and shoot twice, and they used to be able to advance and shoot with no penalty. That's what made them stand out to me in 8th. Typically, though, with Blood Angels, you don't want to be advancing because then you can't be charging, and I'd say most of the time, charging is more important, especially with the new charging rules where, like, if you can fight through terrain, you can get that 2-inch engagement range, which basically means most of the time you can get, like, an easier charge from Deep Strike. Now, I don't typically run much in Deep Strike these days, but if I was going to run Terminators, then getting an easier charge for them all the time. Let me think, right, because, like, before, you used to have to charge on a roll of 8, right? Is that right? Yeah, you charge on 8 because of +1, so it's 41% chance, and then That's like 59 times 41. So you used to charge on a 65% chance, right? But now, with the new rules, you charge on an 82% chance if you can get that 2 inches of extra deep strike shenanigans. So like your Terminators went from their potential deep strike charge went up 18% chance, right? So it went from like 66 up to 82 if you're going to be willing to reroll on it. It's pretty crazy actually. If you combo that with like a priest doing Canticle of Hate, that's a good, like, it would be 72 and then inverse of 72 times 28. So like if you have the Canticle of Hate there, you're talking 92% charge reliability. That's crazy. Advanced and shooting aggressors won't hurt anything. Yeah, I mean that's the problem with bolters in general these days. Bolters don't do a lot of damage, right? Okay. So try and get bigger squads of Sanguinary Guard. Probably look at Astaroth. Maybe try and get more Incursors in there. My jury's out on aggressors. Like, I've just not seen the strength of them. If I'd made mine with Flamers, I might have run them for a test or two, because I made mine with the Bolters back when they could double shoot the Bolters and it was really strong. And mine have been shelved for a while, so I feel like these guys are shelved a little bit as well. Okay. There's too many charge debuff abilities out there. I'd never plan to deep strike charge Terminators unless I'm insanely desperate. I mean, you say that, Rezio, but like I get to the top of tournament tables with deep strike Terminators in every game last year, I think. Pre-Armor of Contempt. I like Terminators. I think Terminators are still good. I think that the ones without close combat weapons are even stronger now because they have a 2-up save, ignoring 1 AP. So if you dump them into cover when they land, they're on a 1-up save, ignoring 1 AP. So generally, like, if you fail the charge, as long as they're in cover, they're pretty darn survivable. Alright, so Mike sent me a list, and it must be a variant of Sam and John's. We had an interview with Sam on the channel a little while ago. I think I'm gonna have to email Sam tomorrow, actually. I think I'm supposed to be interviewing him this week, but we talked about it a few weeks ago, so we'll need to sync on times. So it's built to favor Relentless Assault, Blade of Sanguinius, and Data. Always use mission and opponent's list to judge which secondaries. Yes, I mean, that's how most people do it. They take the Voidsmen, and they're going to start in a Landspeeder Storm. Again, that's going to do Relentless and Data. We're going to have the Librarian Dreadnought. He's going to start as a Death Company play and positional setup, standard Librarian play. Turn 2 usually is a Blade of Sanguinius Strike. Get Assault from the Priest and go... spending the extra CP to Quickness, Wing, Smite with Chapter Master rerolls in the Priest Assault Doctrine. Alright, so he's going to go very heavy on buffs for the Librarian Dreadnought in turn 2. The rest should be self-explanatory. Landspeeder and Assault Intercessors are going to be put in reserve using my tactic. Assault Squad is our turn 2 optimal trade priest, spending the CP to get a second priest buff for them and make the pistols really pay off in the early game. This army relies heavily on Angel Sacrifice play and requires a lot of CP management, but it's submitted as a top level list, not an entry level, thus requiring trading experience, and obviously the Sandguard would be all swords. If I had the models, and depending on the map, 1 unit is left without Infernal Pistols in case I want to start in reserve and pick a squad to re-enter next turn. Okay. So this is our final list for tonight. Would Relic Terminators be better than Assault Terminators with close combat weapons? I mean, they're different, right? Your close combat Terminators are probably going to be better at going for, like, armor that is like T7 or T8, whereas your Relic Terminators are just going to mince the crap out of like Horde models. They're actually not bad into armor because of the reroll with the Lightning Claws, but they're only ever 1 damage, right? Alright, so he's starting on 4 CP with 2,000 points. We got Voidsman Arms, and it's just a 5-man, I guess, because it's going in the Landspeeder Storm. We've got Dante, who is the Warlord, but notably no heroic bearing. Yeah, that's the name of the Warlord trait. We've got Librarian Dreadnought upgraded to Chief Librarian with Quickening, Unleash Rage, and Wings. He's Champion of Humanity, which is making him hit on 2s and get +1 attack. And obviously Hero the Chapter with the Meltagun. I like Champion of Humanity on Librarian Dreadnought. I just don't know if you can do that and not have Psychic Mastery, because casting on a 6 is generally quite unreliable, and if you need to Wings in turn 2, I guess it's fine. I guess there's a risk to be taken in both plays, right? If you're giving the Librarian Chapter Master rerolls, though, to make up for his crappy weapon skill, then I would probably take Psychic Mastery to basically improve the chance of me getting to my target with Wings and Quickening. We also got the Sanguinary Priest, who has got the Rights of War and is running Armor Indomitus. I don't love Armor Indomitus on the Priest, but I guess to try and make him survive. Are Chain Fist on Relics too expensive? I think they're just 10 points. I put a Chain Fist on my Sergeant, Jacob, because the Sergeant gets an extra attack, so why not take the Chain Fist on the Sergeant? I think they might actually just be 5 points on the Relics. And because Chain Fists are 5 points. Yeah, I mean, because these guys are so cheap, they're actually like the cheapest Terminators you can get. A 5-man is what, 170 points? I'd probably be willing to put like 2 Chain Fists in there, one on the Sergeant, one on someone else. I think it's a pretty durable squad, you know, for the points. Leadership 9 as well. Alright, we've got 2 Incursor squads and Assault Intercessor squad, which is what I play. We got the Death Company with the 4 hammers. We've got the Sanguinary Guard ×3, which is what I was playing up until recently. We've got a couple of Infernal Pistols in each squad. We have a squad full of axes, but I think he said if he had the models, he'd probably run full swords, and I tend to agree with that. We've got a 5-man Assault squad, and we've got some Plasma Pistols and Infernal Pistols in here. We've got Multi-Melta with a Landspeeder. We've got the Thunder Strike, which is the thing that I bought recently that I haven't finished making. I think the Thunder Strike is the one with the 2-up ballistic skill. Fast Attack, Storm Speeder, Thunder Strike. 2-up ballistic skill. And it's got quite good range, right? Like, it's basically missiles, 36 or 40 inches range, and you can get some rocket pod attacks within 24, which is fine. I guess the rocket pods are quite good if you are fighting something that is flying. So if you're shooting like an aircraft that was -1 to hit, with the +1 to hit from the rocket pods, the fact it's still on a 2-up, right? And then you've got the Eliminators of the Las Fusils, and then the Landspeeder Storm. Interesting. This is a high... Did I not say Storm Speeder? What did I call it? I couldn't help myself, just bought the new Horus Heresy of Darkness box set, £130. I couldn't say to the wife, she won't be happy. I hope you use my Element Link game, my Element affiliate link, Dirty Wizard. What the hell was that? Maybe my wife dropped something in the other room. Phobos Librarian with Champion of Humanity and Mastercrafted Power Sword, Wings and Quickening, start him in cover and turn 1 move. Can the Phobos Librarian take the Library Steel Discipline? I guess he can. Did he do enough damage though? Phobos Librarian. It says, Smite and 2 powers from the Obscuration Discipline. Can he take the Librarian Discipline? The Sanguinary Discipline? I forget where that's specifically mentioned, Jim. Yeah, I mean this one just says you can take from the librarious discipline. So I guess it's mentioned on the main Blood Angels sheet. Sanguinary discipline. Here we go. What does it say? Models and Blood Angels detachments can know all their powers from the sanguinary discipline. Okay, yeah, you're right. So what has he got? He's got weapon skill 3 up. He's got 4 attacks. He's got strength 5 minus 3 D3. So he's got the same problem as Mephisto, and he's doing D3 damage. But I mean, I guess he gets concealed positions, so he's deploying wherever the hell you want him. You're giving him Champion of Humanity, so he hits on 2s and he gets +2 to a wound. But remember that just caps at +1, right? And then you quickening wings. So potentially in turn 1 you can have 8 attacks. I mean, maybe 9 attacks, maybe. Mastercraft the sword for D3. I mean, it's a big investment. Yeah, it's only 115 points. Why 115 points? Why not just a? Oh, this is no. Why 115? Why not just 100? Where are you getting the extra 15 from? I mean, it's not a bad idea. I guess it just depends on what you're playing against. Matt says, I just bought my first Blood Angels army last night. Now I won't be a lurker. Welcome, Matt. Thank you. Please consider subscribing if you're new here. Interesting. I never considered the Librarian Phobos armor as a character killer, but now with Blade, where you can pick the enemy's weakest character, you could literally deploy him as your last model on the battlefield, and then go after the character for that. It's an interesting idea. Yeah, he's 100 points. I thought you said 115, sorry. Oh, right, you would turn 115 points. Yeah. It's an interesting idea. Okay, sorry, back to this list. We get the 3 scores of Sanguinary Guard, we get the 1 score of Death Company, we get the Salt and Incursors and Cursors. I mean, all this is very run-of-the-mill, very standard. Dante, the Librarian Dreadnought, the Priest, I feel like is all good. The Voidsman at Arms, because you're putting them on Land Speed or Storm, you can only manage the 5 of them. It's fine. It gives you a tiny little bit of a crapper chance at doing NAC1 data if you want to do it, but overall it's fine. The Assault Squad with pistols, again, is fine. The Land Speeder, the Storm Speeder, the Eliminators. There's a lot to like in this list. The Land Speeder Storm also gets a stratagem that I always forget about. Land Speeder Storm is another model that I don't have. It's a dedicated transport as well, isn't it? What's the stratagem again? Shock and Awe. You can remove the ability of an enemy to fire Overwatch or set to defend, and each time this model makes an attack, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll. So, could be very valuable, I guess, in terms of like just preventing an Overwatch somewhere with. And you just do that within 6, and this Land Speeder obviously moves 18 and then can advance. So basically, you've got like a 26 to 30 inches threat on no Overwatch. Cool. Land Speeder Storm is a very interesting option. I've seen Sam is swearing by it with the melee scouts. I actually think the melee scouts are pretty decent for the inside the Land Speeder Storm. I like the Voidsman as well. I think both options are pretty cool. This is why I feel like I can't do another army, because every time we do these army list shows, well, I've just bought a Storm Speeder and like you guys saw it, like it's nowhere. It's half made, not even half made, probably not even sprayed. So already in this show, we've talked about the Land Speeder Storm, we've talked about Gladiator tanks, we've talked about Invader ATVs. I think we talked about a fourth thing that I don't have. And ideally, at one point, I'd like to have everything. So when stuff gets made better or stronger, I could change or I could pivot. I know for sure I have no assault squads painted as well. I have a bunch of assault marines, but none of them with the new weapon options, and none of them painted. Okay. This is a pretty interesting list. Is there anything that I dislike? I mean, I haven't tested the Storm Speed or Thunderstrike, but that's probably what I'm going to build. We've talked a lot about a dual-wielding Infernal Pistol Scout Sergeant inside the Landspeeder Storm. I guess that could be fun. It seems a bit random. Do you have any armigers? No, I haven't got any armigers yet. There's no fight last in this list, but I guess you've got the characters to hopefully heroically intervene, and you've got the threat of that Librarian Dreadnought. A little sad that he's not the Psychic Master. If you're gonna, because he said he was gonna give him Chapter Master rerolls and put him with Assault Doctrine. At that point, I'd rather have his Psychic test reliable so he can jump around the board. But yeah, I mean this variant of list is very strong. If you compare this list to like the list we did 3 lists ago or something that was like 100% melee, had no fire support. Just this is minimal fire support, right? Like a Landspeeder 70 points, a Thunderstrike 150 points, Eliminator 70 points. So like that's 295 points. I mean, I don't class the Landspeeder Storm as fire support. It's got like a heavy bolter on it and a strength 4 grenade launcher, right? Like it's not going to kill anything. So 300 points of fire support feels like this is a minimum amount of fire support, but you could make this work, right? Because a couple of last fusils coming out every turn. They're strength 8, they're -3, they're 3 damage. One of them sneaks through, that's 3 damage a turn. The Storm Speeder, couple of long range missiles. I think it's 3 long range missiles, and then the shorter range if you ever get to the rocket pod's range. But 3 long range missiles. They're all like strength 9. They're all -3. They're d6 damage. One of them sneaks through again. That's potentially 6 damage. You've got your multi-metal land speeder. Yes, sometimes it does nothing. But I don't know if you saw my game against Tau a few weeks ago, where this land speeder came in from reserve 9 inches away from an enemy, which is in half range of the multi-melta, and then I rolled double 6 on the damage roll for the multi-melta. So this land speeder can do 14 damage in a turn. No, 16 damage, d6 plus 2, right? It doesn't do it very often, but it does happen. So again, one shot from the multi-melta sneaks through. So this 295 points of fire support can sneak like 10 to 12 wounds. Probably, let's say if it sneaks 10 wounds off the enemy a turn, that's actually pretty decent, right? Storm Speeders feel like a trap, but my head says they're fine. I think if you're playing the Storm Speeder, you have to play the Thunderstrike. I believe it's the cheapest one, and it's the only one that's got the Ballistic Skill 2 for some reason. And I think the tactic behind it is like I wouldn't run multiple of them, and I think the tactic is to use the speed and the range to basically stop them shooting back at your Storm Speeder, right? Because it's 36 inches range. And one of the missiles, I think one of them is 48 inches range. I'm building one, so jury's out right now, but I'll know soon enough. Yeah. So it's a little bit of firepower, but I think at least gives you that option. And you don't have to kill armor with it. Like sometimes you could just, like for example, I've had games against Andrew where like he tried to charge the Repentia and they were left out in no man's land. I would shoot Repentia. Thank you so much for subscribing, Edward. Appreciate it. I would like if this was, let's say there's 6 Repentia or something in no man's land. I would happily shoot all this crap at those Repentia because I think that like, yes, that's kind of a bad trade in that like I would be shooting 300 points of models at like 10-point Repentia, but if I kill those Repentia and then they can't fight on death when I have to make a charge in a future turn, excuse me, that's well worth it. Like, and that's why I don't like going 100% melee. And on that bombshell, I think we're going to end the stream. I see Mike is in the chat. Do you think Primaris Reavers would be worth it if they had poison knives? I painted my Reavers painstakingly in Death Company colors with those white masks Mr. Lonely, and I was so excited that they were going to get good at some point, and they've just been crap ever since I bought them. So would I love it if their knives were better? Yes, because they made the AP on their pistols better, but like, who gives a shit? Tau get like better. Tau get like pistols that have like pistol 5. The Reavers get pistol 1 with like an extra point of AP. I don't get why Reavers have been left out in the. Reavers have been abandoned, I guess. Icarus rocket pods on the speeder at 2d3 blast shots could deal with the Repentia all by itself. Yeah, that's true. It's hitting on 2s, isn't it? For the price of 1 Thunderstrike, I'm going 2 tornadoes with assault cannons and multi-meltas, 4 melta shots and 12 assault cannons for 160 points. Seems tasty. True. Land speeders do seem to be very popular right now. I think the advantage of the Storm Speeder is you don't need a Tech Marine or anything to buff it, right? Like, it's just... the Thunderstrike's just going to hit on 2s. I do think if they improve the damage swing on the Thunderstrike, like if they make this like D6 plus 2 or D3 plus 3, then Thunderstrikes are going to be really interesting. That's kind of why I bought one. Because the Chaos Codex has kind of been like unifying some of those weapons, you know, like Chaos Land Speeders. Sorry, the Chaos Predators got a D6 plus 2 on their last cannons now and stuff, you know? Yeah, it's a decent list, Mike. I like it. I don't know if I would change anything. The only thing... let me look at it one last time. The only thing that I'm doing now is I'm moving away from Dante, and I'm going to take my Captain on a Bike again. I just don't think Dante does enough. Yeah, he gives you 1 CP, but I think I would rather I'd rather a character that I think can survive, and I think the guy on a bike just survives much better than Dante generally. -1 to hit is rarely good for survival. Like, quite often, you know, like especially if I'm playing like Sisters of Battle, for example, you know, like the everything's hitting at like -4 AP, so the -1 and then everything can reroll anyway. And 6s are bursting, so like in terms of like the Sanguinary Guard getting -1 to hit against Repentia or Seraphim or something like that, it makes literally no difference because Repentia are already -1 to hit, and Seraphim, the -1 to hit probably actually benefits them because then they re-roll all their hits and they get more 6s, so they burst more attacks. So like the -1 that Sanguinary Guard have to hit and the -1 Dante has to be hit, my opinion is like I'd prefer it if they just had a better save, or I'd prefer it if they just had a better toughness, because -1 to hit seems like it's too situational to be relied upon. Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream tonight. And obviously there'll be new lists up next week. If you want to submit a list, what you can do is you can head over to YouTube /C/Blood Angels Commander. You can click on community and you can post your list in the latest community tab. Shit, I haven't done a community post for 13 days apparently, so I will do one this week. Cool. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. I hope I gave you the people's lists some good feedback. It was nice to hang out with you guys. The plan for this week on the channel is Wednesday. Let me think. Wednesday we're going to play Sisters. Friday we're going to have an interview with Chris about the Centurion list that did like really well at ATC, and then on the podcast episode I'm releasing on, I'm filming on Thursday night. We're gonna look. We've got the leak for the Voltan, the squats, so we're gonna film that up on Thursday night. So that will release on the 3 Grots channel next week. I'm sure most of you guys are already subscribers on 3 Grots, but if you're not, /C 3 Grots. We're trying desperately to hit 1,000 subscribers. If you're not subscribed over here, I'll put a link in chat as well. I would love it if you would consider doing that. It really does help us out. And yeah, I guess I'll see a bunch of you guys on Wednesday night to see if we can... We've lost the last 2 games against the Sisters. They're just so damn efficient at killing Marines. Last week, though, there was a couple of big swings. Andrew had to make 10 3-up saves in a row. Single fail was like a 10-point swing on victory points, and he passed all 10. I don't think he even had CP for a reroll, so, you know, when swings like that happen, sometimes you have to step back and say you did the best you could, which is kind of how I felt. But yeah, we'll play Sisters on Wednesday night, so hopefully I'll see some of you there. Cool, and if not, I'll probably see some of you guys next week. All right, enjoy your evening, guys. Catch you all later. Peace.